At 89 years old, I still have a calendar hanging in my kitchen that I cannot bring myself to throw away. It is not beautiful. The paper is yellow at the edges, and the little metal ring at the top has begun to rust. But there are 17 dates circled in blue ink that I remember too well. Those were the days I promised my husband I would make time for him. I didn't. My name is Margaret, and I was married to Daniel for 54 years. I worked until I was 73. I was proud of that. I thought being busy meant I was doing something important with my life. What I understand now is much harder to admit. I was always busy with things that could wait. My husband was not. I want to tell you about the year I finally understood that, because if you are anything like I was, you may have a sentence you use without even thinking. Later. I know that sentence better than anyone. I used it when Daniel asked me to have breakfast with him. Later. I used it when he wanted to take a walk. Later. I used it when he suggested we spend a Saturday together. Maybe next week. I thought I had decades left. I was wrong. Daniel and I married on June 18, 1968. I was 27. He was 29. We rented a small two-bedroom house with crooked floors and a kitchen so narrow that two people could barely stand in it. We had one old car, $43 between us after paying the first month's rent, and a mattress that sank in the middle. We were happy. Not the kind of happy people photograph. The ordinary kind. Daniel made coffee every morning. I hated how strong he made it, but I drank it anyway. He sang badly while shaving. On Sundays, he bought a newspaper and spread it across the entire table, forcing me to move my breakfast plate. We had 2 children. Then came school bills, mortgage payments, groceries, repairs, and all the ordinary responsibilities that quietly fill a life. I returned to work after our second child started school. At first, it was only supposed to be temporary. Then I became good at my job. Then I was promoted. Then another promotion came. By the time I was 48, I was managing a department of 23 people. People respected me. They called me dependable. They called me ambitious. They called me a woman who knew how to get things done. Daniel never complained about my work. That is one of the things that makes remembering it so painful. He simply waited. In October 1997, he asked me to take Friday off. Just one day, he said. I want to drive up to the lake. I was sitting at the kitchen table with a stack of papers beside me. I can't, Daniel. We have the quarterly meeting. You've been working late every night. I know. Then maybe you need the day. I looked at him and laughed. Not cruelly. Just impatiently. I'll have time when things settle down. He was quiet for a few seconds. Then he nodded. All right. That was how most of our arguments ended. He didn't fight. He waited. In May 2003, he asked me to come home early for dinner. He had bought salmon. I had a presentation the next morning. I can't tonight. You said that yesterday. I know. And the day before. I know, Daniel. He stood there holding the grocery bag. There was a little tear in the plastic where the corner of the salmon package had pushed against it. It's okay, he said. I went back to my computer. At 9:40 that evening, I walked into the kitchen and found him eating alone. The salmon was cold. He had left one piece on my plate. I didn't eat it. I put it in the refrigerator. The next morning, I threw it away. At the time, I thought that was nothing. Now, at 89, I can still remember the smell of that cold fish. That is the strange thing about regret. It doesn't always return as a grand memory. Sometimes it comes back as something as small as a smell. In 2009, our children started asking us to travel with them. Our daughter wanted us to visit her in Colorado. Our son wanted us to spend Thanksgiving with his family. Daniel wanted to go. I always had a reason not to. The company was going through restructuring. My team needed me. I had a deadline. I had promised someone something. There was always something. One evening, Daniel placed a brochure on the kitchen counter. It was for a 2-week trip through Italy. I picked it up. It's expensive. We can afford it. 2 weeks is a long time. We're retired enough. I smiled. Daniel, I'm not ready to slow down. He looked at me for a long moment. Then he folded the brochure and put it in the drawer. All right. I didn't notice that he never mentioned Italy again. In January 2018, I finally retired. I was 77. Everyone expected me to be thrilled. My coworkers gave me flowers. Someone brought a cake. People told me, now your real life begins. I believed them. For the first few weeks, I slept late, cleaned closets, organized papers, and answered emails. Then I realized something uncomfortable. Daniel had already built a life without me. He had his morning walks. He volunteered at the library twice a week. He met 3 friends for coffee every Thursday. He had a vegetable garden. He knew the names of our neighbors. He had routines. I had a calendar. And suddenly, my calendar was empty. I began asking Daniel to do things with me. He was polite. But something had changed. One Saturday morning, I said, let's go somewhere. He looked up from his newspaper. Where? I don't know. Somewhere. He smiled. You spent 30 years telling me you were too busy to go somewhere. I laughed because I thought he was joking. He wasn't. Then he went back to reading. That sentence stayed with me. Still, I didn't understand. Not completely. The following summer, Daniel turned 79. We had a small dinner at home. Our children came. Our grandchildren ran through the house. Daniel looked happy. After everyone left, I found him sitting alone on the porch. I sat beside him. You had a nice birthday. Yes. You seem quiet. He looked at the backyard. I'm tired. You should go to bed. He smiled. Soon. I should have asked what he meant. I should have sat there longer. Instead, I stood up. I have some laundry to fold. He nodded. Good night, Margaret. Those were the last ordinary words he ever said to me. 3 weeks later, on September 14, 2019, Daniel had a heart attack while walking home from the grocery store. He was 80. I was 82. The hospital called at 11:26 in the morning. I remember the exact time because I was standing beside the washing machine. There are moments when your life divides itself into 2 parts. Before and after. The doctor spoke gently. I heard the words. I understood them. But I could not make them belong to my husband. Daniel was gone. And suddenly there was no later. No Friday. No next week. No Italy. No dinner when work became less demanding. No walk when I finished organizing the house. No morning when I finally had enough time. For 3 days, people came to the house. Food appeared in the refrigerator. Flowers filled the dining room. Our children slept in their old bedrooms. Everyone was kind. But kindness does not make an empty chair less empty. On the 4th morning, I walked into the kitchen at 6:30. Without thinking, I made 2 cups of coffee. I placed one in front of his chair. Then I stood there. I didn't know what to do with my hands. That was when I saw the calendar. It was hanging beside the refrigerator. Daniel had started writing things on it after I retired. Appointments, family birthdays, doctor visits, trips, and dates he had wanted us to spend together. I took it down. I sat at the table. There were 17 dates circled in blue ink. Under one, he had written lake. Under another, dinner with Margaret. Another said Italy. Then I saw the final one. October 5th. There were no words. Just a small blue circle. I don't know why that one broke me. Maybe because I knew exactly what it meant. He had stopped writing explanations. I found an old envelope in the drawer beneath the calendar. Inside was a receipt from a travel agency. Italy. 2 tickets. Paid in full. The date was October 5th. I stared at that receipt for a long time. He had booked the trip. He had planned it. He had paid for it. And he had never told me. I called the travel agency. The woman on the phone looked up the reservation. Yes, she said. Mr. Daniel Harper. 2 passengers. I couldn't speak. Then she said something I will never forget. I'm sorry. We can refund the unused portion. I whispered, no. There was a long silence. Then I asked her to send me the itinerary. It arrived 2 days later. 14 days. Rome. Florence. Venice. Lake Como. I sat at my kitchen table and read every page. Then I noticed something written in Daniel's handwriting on the last page. It wasn't part of the itinerary. He had written, maybe this time she won't have to say later. I put the paper down and cried so hard that my chest hurt. Not because I had lost a trip. I had lost the chance to become the woman my husband had been waiting for. That was the real loss. After Daniel died, I spent months replaying everything. The Friday at the lake. The cold salmon. The Italy brochure. The dinners I missed. The walks I postponed. The birthdays when I answered emails while he sat across from me. I wanted to believe I had been a bad wife. But that wasn't completely true. I had loved him. I had worked for our family. I had paid bills. I had raised children. I had stayed beside him for 54 years. The problem wasn't that I didn't love him. The problem was that I kept treating love like something that could be scheduled. Something that could wait until the important things were finished. At 83, I began volunteering at a community center. I met a woman named Ruth. She was 71 and constantly complained that her husband wanted too much of her time. One afternoon she said, he keeps asking me to sit with him. I have things to do. I looked at her. Then I said something I wish someone had said to me 30 years earlier. Ruth, what exactly are you waiting to finish? She laughed. Everything. I nodded. I know. She didn't understand why I said it like that. I didn't explain. Some lessons cannot be transferred. You have to live long enough to recognize them. Now, at 89, I have a small rule. When someone I love asks for my time, I ask myself one question. Will this still matter more than them 5 years from now? Sometimes the answer is yes. Most of the time, it isn't. If my granddaughter calls while I'm cleaning, I stop cleaning. If my son asks me to have coffee, I go. If a friend wants to sit on the porch and talk for an hour about something I've already heard, I listen. Not because every conversation is important. Because I finally understand that the person sitting in front of me is not guaranteed to be there tomorrow. You may think you're protecting your future by constantly sacrificing your present. I did. I thought every late night at work was building security. Every postponed trip was buying me another opportunity. every later was harmless. But later is not a promise. It is only a possibility. And sometimes it never arrives. I still have Daniel's calendar. It sits in the drawer beside my kitchen table. I don't display it anymore. I don't need to. I know those 17 dates by heart. Sometimes, when I make coffee in the morning, I still reach for a second cup. Then I remember. There is only one chair now. And I sit down slowly. I look at the empty place across from me. For 54 years, I thought the most valuable thing my husband could give me was his patience. Now I understand it was his time. And I spent too much of it asking him to wait. If you have someone in your life who keeps saying, "Come sit with me," don't assume they will ask forever. If someone says, "Let's go somewhere," don't automatically tell them you're busy. And if you find yourself saying, "We'll do it later," stop for a moment. Ask yourself what you are protecting. A deadline? A clean house? Another promotion? Another email? Or are you protecting yourself from giving an hour to someone you love? I know what I would choose now. But I am 89. My choosing days are different from yours. You may still have time. I hope you do. Because the cruelest thing about my story isn't that Daniel died. Everyone dies. The cruelest thing is that he spent years standing beside me while I kept promising him there would be time. There wasn't. The calendar is still in my drawer. 17 blue circles. And one sentence I can never answer. Maybe this time she won't have to say later. I would give almost anything to hear him ask me again. I would put down everything. But he isn't asking anymore. There is no later.